So I wanted to take a break from meme builds and I wanted to play something, well, boringly effective, like Scorching Ray or Blade Vortex. The thing is, not that long ago I did play with Scorching Ray build, just with pure Scorching Ray build, and also with pure Blade Vortex build. And both had certain drawbacks that really annoyed me. Scorching Ray lacked leech and felt kind of squishy, and Blade Vortex was just annoying to keep recasting those. And I did those builds before Ascendancy revamp, so I kind of wanted to remake them but combine both of those into one and hope that I would be tankier than just pure Scorching Ray build and less annoying than just pure Blade Vortex build. And in the end, it did what I wanted it to do, which is farm almost any map mod and do endgame content like Shaper's Guardians, Retir, Elder, Shaper himself, and I did manage to do Shaper as well. And unlike all of my meme builds, I did take this build very seriously, and I did all the things that normally you would do if you wanted to maximize the build, which also means that this build is not cheap. First I'm gonna talk about cons and pros of this build, then quickly my passive skill tree, then items and links. As always, you can find timestamps and other info in video description. So first, advantages of this build. It is pretty tanky, you can face tank many of the enemies. It is pretty fast, pretty good clear speed, not the best clear speed. It does not have too many conditional things, actually you don't even need to worry about conditional things. And the damage is pretty decent. It was more than enough for me to kill Shaper, and I only killed Shaper, well, the second time, ever. So even without too much practice I still managed to do Shaper. Now, cons. Actually there are quite a lot of cons. First of all, it is pricey. And by pricey I mean, well, 4x. Kaom's heart alone only costed me 1.4x. As for the damage, it takes some time to ramp up the damage. And that can feel a bit clunky, so it's not for everyone. Chaos damage is very scary for this build. And if you don't do all the things that are required for this build, it's gonna feel way worse. It's either gonna feel slow, you're gonna have mana issues, or you're gonna feel squishy. But my overall rating for this build is a big thumbs up. Now for the passive skill tree. There's nothing too special. For the Blade Vortex you need the skill effect duration, which I grabbed one wheel, and then just life, some fire damage, elemental damage, more life, and Avatar of Fire, because I am converting 100% of physical damage into fire damage. Because Chieftain is pretty decent for this, because it has 50% physical damage converted into fire, also cover enemies in ash, increasing damage, penetration, extra fire damage, regen, leech, more strength, damage scaling with endurance charges and well, just endurance charge generation. Like I said at the start of the video, I wanted leech, but Scorching Ray does not hit, so it doesn't have leech. However, with Chieftain you get leech from your fire damage, and since you convert all of your Blade Vortex physical damage into fire, you get leech from Blade Vortex. And since Blade Vortex hits enemies, it also covers enemies in ash, which means that enemies take more fire damage, including Scorching Ray damage and damage from your Blade Vortex. You could probably squeeze in Righteous Fire into this, but I mean, you would not be able to use Casual Channeling, unless you replaced Kaom's Heart with some 6-link armor. By the way, as a Chieftain, first I took this node, then this node, then this node and this node. Those nodes' names are too hard to pronounce, but I will try to type them in video description. Right, let's talk about items. Kaom's Art is an obvious choice because lots of life and some fire damage. Fenumus Weave because aspect of the spider is just overall very good. Enemies take 15% more damage, that is when they are covered in 3 spider webs. And their damage boost is also for Scorching Ray and Blade Vortex. And the gloves themselves do give damage to your Blade Vortex. And aspect of the spider also hinders enemies, making them, well, move slower. But just move slower. It does not affect their attack or cast speed. Then I really wanted to use Mark of the Shaper because simply it gives over 60% spell damage if the other ring is Elder. And it also gives a percentage life, which is very nice for this. And my other ring, well, I did crafted it myself with fire damage, strength, life and resistance. Belt also, well, life. I'm gonna talk about resistances a bit later, but I need a specific amount of resistances. Then my helmet, and it does not have to be like this because this helmet is pretty expensive, at least for exalts. But what I wanted on the helmet is Consecrated Effect because it also gives generic increased area damage, which boosts my Blade Vortex damage, and it also had well, physical damage to spells, which boosts Blade Vortex damage because it also gets converted into fire damage, and it also has pretty decent amount of life. So the helmet doesn't even need to be like this one. I just had it for my previous attempts to craft something good, and I finally had a chance to use it. Now for the boots, I wanted at least 30% increased movement speed because with less movement speed this build can definitely feel much, well, just too slow. And lastly for the staff, I crafted this staff at the very start of the league and I actually used this staff for my Indigon build. And if you haven't seen it, I'm gonna link it somewhere in the description. I'm pretty sure that it's almost impossible to get staff like this because people don't really use staffs, so we don't craft them, but it should be possible to get something similar just with casual channeling. Level 20 is very important, and then lots of spell damage, or if you're lucky and can 6-link it, then yeah, do that. I have absolutely no luck 6-linking anything in this league, like 0 luck, but I guess I'm lucky in other ways. Oh, for the boots enchantment, regen if you have been hit recently could be pretty nice, but well, I had this one from before and it makes the build feel, well, smoother, faster I guess. Now, last thing about this is Wise Oak. I have triple balanced my resistance. Like I said, I took this build pretty seriously, but not because I'm dealing 3 different kinds of elemental damage, but because I wanted extra elemental well, mitigation. And of course it does give me fire penetration, which only helps for Blade Vortex. As for leveling, I can't really say anything too special. I was just using Tabula until like level 65. And I was using casual channeling setup right from the very start when I could use it. Oh, also very nice leveling rings are the Heup of All. Gives all resistances, all attributes, and lots of damage. As always, I will list all the items in video description. And finally, let's talk about links. The main setup inside my staff with casual channeling and arcane surge. I also have Scorching Ray, Elemental Focus, Blade Vortex, Control Destruction, and Efficacy. And for 6-link I would probably use Iron Will actually, because it does not increase my mana cost, which is kind of a big issue. Let's say if you use Empower level 3, then you would have mana issues. And since I do have, well, almost 400 strength, Iron Will does give quite a lot of damage. It actually gives more damage than Empower level 3. Also, I do carry Enduring Cry and I keep using it against single target, but you don't have to keep using it for mapping because Herald of Ash will burn the enemies, and when you kill them, you will generate endurance charges. In my boots, I have Herald of Ash, linked with level 3 Enlighten, Arctic Armor, well, and Portal. I don't do builds without Portal anymore. In my gloves, I do have Orb of Storms linked with Curse on Hit and Feeble, and I have Blood Rage. Blood Rage is just for mapping to make me feel, well, faster. Then in my helmet, I have Leaf Slam linked with faster attacks, Fortify, and, well, Frost Wall. And here's the thing, Frost Wall is actually really OP. I think I'm gonna start using Frost Wall in every of my build that is ranged. Being able to completely block enemy projectiles is just so good. Even on this kind of a build that is, well, pretty tanky, there are still enemies that do a lot of damage with projectiles. Or just in general, you can just block enemies and just, well, laugh from them and deal with them with your ranged attacks or spells. Seriously, I cannot stress enough how surprised I am with the Frost Wall. If you never use Frost Wall, definitely give it a try. It is not only useful against the Elder fight to protect the Shaper, but just in general for mapping. Let's quickly go back into passive skill tree and talk about the jewels. Since this build requires quite a lot of dex, I am using careful planning to convert my intelligence into dexterity, right here. Also, one of my jewels gives me onslaught on kill, which is very nice to have, and without it you may feel a bit too slow. And leaf slamming with this slow stuff is just not an option. Other jewels are just with life and damage. And since life plus fire damage jewels are very expensive, it's pretty easy to get something like this with generic damage, spell damage while wielding a staff because people don't really use staff, and then life. But for some jewels like this one I did pay quite a lot, between 30 hairs or 40 hairs. But like I said, I wanted to use Wise Oak and I had to, well, perfectly balance my resistances. But you could instead use Sulfur Blast, which would give you increased generic damage and would create Consecrated Ground, which does give life regen. And that's about all. Overall the build does feel pretty good and pretty strong. I managed to reach level 81 without dying. But after that I just stopped caring about that, and now I have 40 deaths. But no, this is serious build. Anyway, like I said at the start, this build was just, I guess, a vacation from the meme builds. But after this I'm gonna be back to meme builds. But I'm not actually sure what my next build guide is gonna be. I already have a build that I'm gonna be playing the next day, and I wanted to do, well, another Blade Vortex but with a Hierophant and a lot of totems, which seems to be pretty bad idea, but perfect for meme build. Anyways, already over 10 minutes, thank you for watching and see you soon.